Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at Astetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 190, and welcome to August. We are officially in the same month that the Premier League season begins. We are just over 2 weeks away from Spurs' first match against Leicester City, and we've got a packed show for you today. We'll start by throwing it out to the Todd Father himself at TC_Kasho. What's up, my friend Todd?
Dude, any day that you can talk about the departure of the Prince of Physio Fuckery is a good day. And we will come on to that, but man, I am jacked up.
If you can't tell, Todd has an agenda coming to today's podcast. We will indeed get to that, something that I was unaware of up until about 90 minutes ago, but that's okay. We love the input. Scott is also alongside. He is at Scott G. Bird. Scott, what's going on?
Chilling. Any day that you can hear Todd talk about the types of good days that there are is a good day. So, glad to be here. I've been spending most of my time watching the Olympics, playing NCAA football, and imploding rounds of golf in the 16th, 17th-ish holes. So other than that, things have been fine.
And I know someone who's been watching a lot of Olympics like I have the last few days also here. Caroline, she is at CG Stefko. Caroline, what's going on with you?
Like you said, just, rooting for the USA, enjoying lots of different sports that I don't normally tune into. So, yeah, it's been fun. I didn't think we were going to have tons to talk about today. So I'm glad that Todd is ready to fill in some of the airtime for us.
He's always coming through with that. What has been the weird sport that you've enjoyed the most though, Caroline? Because I've gotten really into watching the fencing this morning. Like, I don't really understand it, but it's like not one of those things that I experience very often. I've watched a ton of track, a ton of swimming. Like, those are the more popular sports, but I was watching along with the golf, which everyone knows I'm a huge golf person. I watched the end of the men's golf this morning, but I was watching a lot of the fencing too. What's the sport that you're really drawn to that is not normally like remotely in your purview?
Well, I think you were the one that introduced me to it. The dressage, the equestrian event, has like blown my mind completely. I did not know horses could move like that. So that's been fun to experience.
And if you don't have handball in your world of understanding, you need to get your life. That is a crazy sport.
I know. I've been
Handball
thinking about going pro handball. Might be my new thing that I invest all of myself into.
Fair enough.
There's a market for it, man.
There is. Also, the skateboarding's been incredible, and it's kind of over now. But as someone who skateboarded for the entirety of my youth, it was pretty rad to see how far these athletes have pushed skateboarding. It's some of that stuff and the biggest trick that I don't know his name, and I'm sorry, but the lad from Japan who took gold in biggest trick on the men's side did something that I didn't think was physically possible, and it's just been really cool to see not only skateboarding but all sports that we're watching, how far these athletes have pushed these sports, and it kind of makes you wonder how far can it go, right?
A lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is I didn't know was humanly possible. The gymnastics, the swimming, I mean, all of it. Yes. It's just the track. It's absolutely insane. My wife actually asked me the other day when the skateboarding was on, and I looked at her like, "You mean that's the X Games, right?" And she was like, "No, it's in the Olympics." And I was like, "That was news to me. I was unaware. They've added so much different stuff." I was watching. That's the other thing. 3-on-3 basketball is now a sport in the Olympics.
Dude, okay. We need to have a fucking conversation about that. You might as well put basketball in the fucking Olympics if 3-on-3 basketball. I was like, yeah, can be when you unk down at the park has got you covered with some 3-on-3 basketball. Buddy, when you looked at the guys that they were trotting out there for Team USA, you were like, dude, this guy hasn't even played professionally since like 2018. What are we doing? Jimmer Fredette's on the court? What's happening right now?
Yeah, it's definitely a little strange, but
as a former distance runner myself, I do want to shout out Grant Fisher for bringing home the silver in the 10,000 meters, becoming the second U.S. men's Olympic distance runner this century to medal in that sport behind Galen Rupp in the marathon in 2012. So, shout out to that guy.
Dude, their ability to run 6.2 miles in like 10 minutes is just mind-bending. It's incredible.
If you watch the end of that, like that was such a gutty race for somebody who, like, most people don't have what it takes to watch 26 laps on the track. Like, I get that, unless you're a cat. But like, for anybody who has the patience and discipline, yeah, that guy knows what I'm talking about. Anybody who has the patience and discipline to watch the drama that is men running sub 5-minute miles for 6.2 miles in a row, sub 4:30 miles for a lot of these guys, for 6 miles in a row. It's wild stuff. This guy, the guy who got silver, the American, he almost fell in the middle of the race, like stepped on the inside rail, almost ate shit, was able to battle back, beat like like an Olympic champion and a world record holder in the same event. Like, it was wild stuff. It was wild stuff. Highly recommend.
Dude, that and the 1,500 meter swim. Those two sports are. I mean, it's not even a physical competition. It's a mental competition at that point to see what the
cat take water.
So,
yeah. For those of you not watching on the YouTube page, my cat was deciding to have a nap on the headrest of my chair and just leaped off. So that's the kind of stuff you get if you watch the podcast on YouTube. You get the shenanigans, all of it. And that actually is a very good time for me to tell you all, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube page, please go do so right now. YouTube.com/Tottenham Depot. You can watch every podcast on YouTube now, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice too, if you're listening on the podcast. Not something I beg for, but we're starting a new season here in a few weeks. We might as well get the numbers ramped back up. I don't ask a lot of our listeners, but that is a favor I'm going to ask before we put the Olympics talk to the side and actually start talking about Spurs here. Not that I don't enjoy the Olympics talk. It's very nice, but Spurs have completed their Asian tour. They went and wrapped it with a 4-3 victory over the K-League All-Stars earlier in the week, and then suffered a 2-1 defeat to Bayern Munich on Saturday. As has been the theme throughout the preseason, I've only been watching highlights. I know for a fact Caroline watched a good deal of these matches, and I'm sure, Caroline, you were super interested in watching a Spurs Bayern Munich preseason friendly as well, that being that you were a fan of both teams. But what are there any big takeaways? What were they from these two matches? I know we've gotten to see kind of still a lot of players out of position, with honestly what we think will be 3/4 of the back line still not really with the team. But Caroline, let's start with you, because I definitely know you watched a good deal of these two matches. What was your big takeaway, if there is one?
I think that is the big takeaway, that we still have not seen our preferred defense in action in this preseason. So for me, it's kind of hard to judge, some of those goals we've conceded. We're not likely to see, I think, for example, Jed Spence operating on the left side of the pitch. That was sort of experimental. And I mean, I guess preseason's the time to do that. So I have no problem with it. But just a little hard to judge the defense, I think. But we're still, I think, seeing some pretty good things in the attack. I'm finding it difficult to gauge what our midfield's going to look like when the season actually starts, because I think we've got a few players who are, putting themselves in contention, but not a lot of consistency yet. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I still have more questions than answers after the preseason. And especially with the last game, it felt like fatigue played a huge role in that match. So I really don't want to make too many firm conclusions from that one. Although from the Bayern side, that reassured me a little that my other team is not going to be a total train wreck this year. So that was nice.
Yeah, I think the fatigue point was one that was made by a number of the different beat reporters, and even Ange. I think he kind of just admitted, these guys have had a long stretch of very intense training in heat and humidity, and kind of just chalked it up to that, which I don't think for a preseason friendly is anything to be too overly concerned with. You want that built into your fitness going into a new season with a couple of weeks to go before the games really count. So I have no issue with him saying that, or anybody showing fatigue, frankly. Todd, Scott, anything to add on the friendlies, on the tour, on the preseason as a whole thus far, with only one match remaining?
Yeah, a couple of different things. I thought that and listening to Alistair Gold and Rob Guest's podcast, they just kind of reassured us that this is what a standard preseason under Ange is like, right? He's going to kick the shit out of you. You're going to play a lot of games. You're gonna endure. I love the fact that they're playing in Korea right now because it's hot and swampy as shit, and everybody is showing the wear. And so by the time that they get back to England, they're going to be loving life. So when you add in all of the things that they're facing, the lack of stalwarts like Van de Ven and Romero, the multiple days of training in a row, playing in front of Sonny's home crowd, which you really like in Korea, especially. Like you really can't understate, you really can't overstate how big of a star Sonny is. It's unfathomable to. It's Taylor Swift big, I guess, is the best way to put it, especially for the listeners of this pod. And what I would say is that is fucking exhausting, especially if you're not used to, if you're, I don't know, Archie Gray or Lucas Bergvall or, somebody along those lines. It's not necessarily, or like Jed Spence, right? Like it's a lot. It's a lot. And so, or a guy like Jamie Donnelly, who's being included in a lot of the club's press for this event. It's a lot. And so when you look at the results, you look at the way that we played, you look at the consistency of the approach throughout the matches, the ability to be flexible with some of the personnel, and the fact that as we know, as it stands right now, I'm going to knock on all the wood I can, everybody came out relatively unscathed from an injury perspective. These are massive wins across the board for Spurs.
Yeah, completely agree with all of that. I think, as far as the matches themselves go, we've played over 150 preseason games at this point, and I think we're good, right? There's not a whole lot else to digest, but I would say the biggest takeaways from me, and I think these takeaways are definitely preseason centric, right? But the back line, like Caroline said, isn't there, but they're going to slot right in. I mean, those four can operate just fine, I think, picking up from where they left off last season. But Will Lancashire, Jamie Donnelly, and Mikey Moore are going to be involved in the first team this year, and I think those are the three things that I take away from this stretch. A year from
now, that's a big call.
I'll look back on and remember. Especially Will Lancashire, I believe that he is currently the second striker and will be the third, assuming that we do bring someone in, which I think we need to, right? But he will be ahead of Dane Scarlett and Alejo Veliz in the pecking order. I think that's quite obvious. I also think Jamie Donnelly will get opportunities to play as an inverted fullback this season because the season's long. And I think we have two first-team players in each position, and I think he's probably the third guy on either side of shop, right, when it comes to depth, and he'll get opportunities. And then I'm going to call it right now. I think Mikey Moore could potentially get some serious minutes against Leicester in the first game of the season because I don't think we'll bring in anybody that can integrate quickly enough to stop that from happening. I do think we'll bring some players in, but if you look at our current 11, you think Sonny's probably up the middle in that match. We haven't seen much of Richarlison, right? I think Kulusevski could be on the right, but it's probably Brennan Johnson. And that leaves Mikey Moore an opportunity on the left side of the front three to maybe even start, right? But if you have Brennan on the left side, a Kulusevski on the right, whatever it is, Mikey Moore is going to get an opportunity to play against Leicester, I would think. And who knows what happens from there. So it's really cool to see those three make an impact. I think typically you expect maybe 1-2 players from the academy to get opportunities, but we're going to see, I think, 3, and that's really neat.
What about Alfie Devine?
I think Alfie Devine is close. I think he could benefit from another opportunity on loan somewhere in the championship for sure. But I wouldn't be upset if I saw him get minutes in the Premier League by any means. But our midfield is deep. I mean, deep. So I I don't think Alfie Devine is going to have many opportunities to play this season, and that's why I call for a loan.
That's interesting. I would probably do a 6-month loan, and I would actually send him to Europe, as opposed to sending him to the championship again. I'd want him to go to some place where he can get a little bit more time on the ball and be a little bit more creative, because that's what I want from him going forward.
Yeah.
One more preseason match on the books for Spurs. They will play Bayern once again next Saturday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I believe they're calling that the Visit Malta Cup or something like that, some kind of sponsorship deal with that one. But that's the last official friendly on the books. I would imagine maybe there's a closed door or something or other in the days leading up to the first match, which again is the 19th of August against Leicester. So the last official quote unquote friendly is next Saturday against Bayern, but it's right around the corner, guys. I mean, we're right here. We're ready for this season to get going here in the next handful of weeks. With that said, there's still a lot of transfer stuff to work out, and I do want to talk transfers before we talk the backroom staff, because you already mentioned some names, and some of the stuff that's happened this week is a lot of it is lesser known stuff. Iago Santiago did head off on a permanent deal. He headed out to Spain for an undisclosed fee. There's certainly a lot of rumors surrounding Emerson Royale to AC Milan. That is still on and seems like it will really start kicking up this week as well. Scott mentioned Alejo Veliz. He's been linked to a move to Fiorentina this week. Pretty heavy reports of that. So that may be something that there's probably going to be a sell-on clause if that's a permanent deal, I would imagine.
Oh, it's permanent. I was going to ask.
Oh, I didn't know it was permanent. I thought it was loan.
There have been rumors of a lot of different things happening. So we will see. I mean, it could just be a matter of too many cooks in the kitchen in that front spot at this point with youth players and bringing someone in too.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I like that, because if we're going to take punts on people out of the Argentine league, we got to be ready to repunt them or punt them onwards quickly.
Sure.
And not dwell on what maybe could be, right? So I like that, especially with Will Lancashire. I mean, that dude is a beast, and he's a better striker than Alejo Veliz. I'll just say that.
Well, he's a better striker than Alejo Veliz right now. I 100% agree. He's also been watching Harry Kane for the last decade, like since he was, coming out of pull-ups. But like my guy Veliz has something that you can't coach in this world, and that is the ability to find the ball with your head in the box. He just needs playing time, and he needs to be able to get out there and actually show what he can do. And he's not going to get the opportunity to do that in this first team this year, for sure. And so it's send him out on a year, send him to the continent, let him get some playing time, and see if we can either spike interest in him or season him to the level where he's usable in the squad.
Yeah, I agree with y'all that I think Lancashire is ahead of Veliz right now, just based on how much game time they got respectively in the preseason. And, in the past, that might have made me think, well, this is it for Veliz. There's no chance of him coming back into the team. But we can just look at what's been happening with Jed Spence to, I think, like Todd said, have that kind of more cautious approach of maybe give him one more loan, and wait and see, because we might not be sure yet.
It's way cheaper to do that. That's a great point. It's way cheaper to do that than take another punt on another Argentinian star that you have to pay and grease the skids for and all the things. He's in the Argentinian setup at a youth level. He just needs playing time. He hurt himself. And we played him last year under Ange. Like, it's not like Ange doesn't trust the guy. It's just when you look at the body of work that you've seen out of Will Lancashire out of the last 16, 18 months, he's become undeniable in that position. And, I mean, what are you going to do? Well, so the guy who needs to get sold, in my opinion, Andrew, is Dane Scarlett. That's where we are.
Well, and again, it may be a matter of too many cooks in the kitchen, because there's all these rumors about Dominic Solanke coming in as well. So that's the kind of the last piece of the transfer rumor puzzle for the week, at least. And I think that stuff on the incoming front will really start to heat up this coming week. Like I said, 2 weeks left of the season, about a month left with the window still being open. The incomings, if there are more to come, and we do think there are at least one or two more to come, they will start to heat up now that Euros and Copa is in the rear view. Not that the Olympics has too big of an impact on it, but the Olympics will be rounding out here in the next week or so as well. So a lot of these moving parts will start to actually move as the season approaches, and that's been the latest one. Does anyone have a footnote on the Solanke rumors? Is that something that's a positive?
Yeah.
Do we think you're in on that, TC?
So let's boil it down for what it is. Like when you actually, like if you just look at Dominic Solanke as the guy who you saw for a handful of games for Liverpool before he was ready, and then the guy who got shipped to Bournemouth and has only had one good season in the Premier League, you know, you can look at it and it's like, oh, that's a punt. That's we're risking things. But what I look at when I see Solanke is a guy who's finally come into his own. He came up in the Chelsea system. He was a guy that was the Chelsea Youth Player of the Year. He was the English Youth Player of the Year. He won a bunch of like youth championships with England. Like this guy was the guy. And he got soured when he got called upon too early at Liverpool and has really found footing. I love the fact that he's had 2 seasons back in the Premier League with Bournemouth, because that first season after he did really well in the championship was definitely a learning curve season for him. And then last year, I thought that he was a big part of the reason that Bournemouth had any, amount of success that they actually had. He scored against, that's what I'm saying. He scored against us. If I remember him scoring against us in a game at the Lane where it was like, dang, yeah, that's some spicy business right there. So I'm looking at this going, he is what neither Will Lancashire, Alejo Veliz, or Dane Scarlett is, and that is a proven Premier League ready striker. So what I expect to see out of this deal is the fact that Daniel Levy doesn't pay full release clauses. That's just not the way that he operates. When you're doing deals within the Premier League, you have to play a lot of the release clause up front with a lot of these clubs, Bournemouth being one of them 100%. And so because of that, like you're going to see some make weight go back that way, whether it be like a Manor Solomon or whether it be like an Ollie Skip or somebody along those lines. Watch Daniel to pay a fraction of that release clause and send some of our deadwood in the direction of Bournemouth for Dominic Solanke.
Yeah.
We shall see. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, 19 goals though. Like I said, that's a goal every other game. And there's a few names that put out a better output or return than that, and Mo Salah, Erling Haaland, Harry Kane, Youngman Son at times. But that's really about it. You can take Cole Palmer too, but 20 penalties or whatever it was. I don't know. I'm not really interested in that, but. Solanke's a goal scorer. Yeah, exactly. Solanke's a goal scorer. He's also he's fairly creative and technical. Like he's comfortable in tight spaces with the ball at his feet. You don't see that from Tony, who we've been heavily linked to, right? I don't think our system needs somebody who. I mean, we need a finisher and a poacher for sure, but our striker has to be comfortable being involved in the creativity of our attack, right? So. I think Solanke's an excellent fit to come in and compete with Richarlison, and I think would probably be the starting striker fairly quickly if he does come in. So I'm pretty excited about it. I know he was not in the squad today for Bournemouth friendly, but he is injured, so we can all pump the brakes, right? I don't think that's because his move is imminent, but at the same time, it seems to be a fairly hot rumor, and I'm all about it. There's other names that a lot of fans are calling for. That Swedish guy from somewhere in Portugal, right? I think
Gokaresh or whatever from Sporting. Yeah. I like Solanke better than him.
Same. I mean that guy struggled in the championship, somehow got a move to Portugal, and then did pretty well. But I mean, it's the 6th, 7th, 8th best league in Europe, right? So I think it's just a funky name that people are all hyped up about, right? More than anything else, and I think Solanke's the guy. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean the homegrown factor is huge too, especially considering he's only 26 years old. So this is someone who could be an important contributor for quite a few years to come. So I agree with y'all. I don't really see a downside in signing him.
Plus, I honestly think that the guy who's going to get the additional minutes at striker for this team, as I mentioned in my bio or my tagline here, is Decky. The creativity that Dejan Kulusevski has shown this preseason with his back to the goal is exactly what the Ange system has been looking for. He looks like a freaking point guard out there. It's so rad. He's got so much swag. I want to see him in Jordan so bad. Anyway.
I feel like Decky would love to be described that way too, because he's a massive basketball fan.
100%.
I don't want us to go any further on that conversation because we're going to step on we are going to do 5 words or less a little bit later on in the podcast with some current Tottenham players. So let's leave that there because that is a conversation that I think will be revitalized. But yeah, transfer rumors continuing on, about a month left in a little less now than a month. And the window closes August 30th from my understanding. So we are in the month the window closes. A few weeks left to get things done before the window proverbially slams shut. This is the part of the podcast where we're going to let Todd grab his spatula and cook for a minute because Tottenham are making some backroom staff changes. This is revealed by Football.London's Alistair Gold in an article posted today. A lot of changes. He went over a lot of the different changes between coaching changes, which we knew about, a lot of recruitment staff changes under Johan Lange, but it was also revealed today in this article that longtime head of medicine and sports science Jeff Scott has left the club after 20 years. Gold also cited in this...
Get out of here.
Okay, easy. Put the spatula down for a second. Let me finish the build-up.
Official
Gold
statement.
also...
Fuck that guy.
Gold also cited both Dejan Kulusevski and Destiny Udogie noticing a change in training sessions during the preseason tour and noted that the players are more confident now that Postecoglou's philosophy and system has been ingrained. So some of that fatigue that we spoke about earlier, a welcome sign perhaps. But Todd, you have been calling for the change to, basically the physio, for lack of a better term, for quite some time. Grab that spatula back and go ahead, cook it up.
Brother, going back to fucking Darren Anderton, we have been a shambles in the physio room, and you can lay every single one of these fucking slow, dragging, ollie skip ass, Rodrigo Bentancur ass, slow recoveries directly to the physio fuckery coming out of that man's office. And the fact that we have changed and improved every aspect of this football club possible over the course of the last 20 years, save the fucking physio staff that actually takes care of the investments we pay millions of pounds for, is ridiculous. So shout out to Ange, shout out to Langa, shout out to Livy for actually getting his shit together and doing the one thing that's going to improve the football on the pitch more than he's already done, is actually pay for someone to meet the need. And that is take care of the fucking players. Take care of the players and keep them healthy so that we can recoup our investment either through glory, trophies, or by showcasing them so we can sell them on and recoup the money. I'm telling you, the addition by subtraction train under Ange Postecoglou keeps fucking rolling on here at number 17, and this change alone is the most important move we've made in this offseason. I'm so amped.
God, I love the passion. It's radiating through the screen at me right now. I don't really have anything to add. I think we've all known that Spurs have had a little bit of a physio issue, and if they're taking care of that in this way, then all in favor. I have nothing much more to add. I really just wanted to hear Todd get super fired up and passionate. And if this means, I mean, look, injuries happen obviously in the game, but Spurs have certainly seemed to have gotten a lot of them these past couple of years, and it's just they've been on the bad end of a lot of different things. And if this is something that can help in that respect, I'm obviously totally on board with it. So fair enough. Before we get to 5 words or less, I do want to touch on the Spurs Women news of the week, which we actually talked last week a little bit about Robert Villaham, but Caroline, you were not with us, and I wanted to get Caroline's take on Robert Villaham and his new contract, and then we're going to talk a little bit too about the disappointing Grace Clinton news. But Caroline, what was your Robert Villaham getting a new contract take? Because I don't think we got it from you.
Well, I don't think I'm going to say anything different than what y'all did. I mean, I'm happy. Yeah, I think it is important to, signal to prospective players that we've got a really stable situation at this club. Like the project is continuing apace. It's really important. So I'm glad they got it done. And it seems like he could not be more happy to be staying at Tottenham. Sounds like his family has, adjusted really well to life in England also. So that's nice. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see what other signings he might be making in the next few weeks, because like you said, we have to talk about the Grace Clinton of it all.
The Grace Clinton is the big news this week.
Yeah, I don't think it was surprising, in which for anyone who hasn't seen, she put out an Instagram post basically saying farewell to the club, to the fans. And I feel like by her language, it seemed like something she was not happy about, because she kept referring to it as like our fans, and just expressing what a great time she had with her experience at Tottenham and making friends for life, So I still feel like there's a chance she could return down the line, because we know that her contract is up after this season with Manchester United. And, if you want to make a contrast to, the situation we have with Robert, I think United have extended Mark Skinner, but it does not feel like the same kind of situation of a club who really knows exactly what their plan is. And there's still a lot of upheaval over there. So there's a chance that come January, if she hasn't signed an extension with them, they might be thinking about moving her on to get at least some sort of fee, because they've let a lot of players go on freeze lately. So we'll see.
Really, really notable too, because Grace Clinton is 21. Like, this is not a, aged veteran player. Like, this is a young player that has the ability and the possibility to just continue to get better. And we saw what she was able to do in the midfield for Spurs. Caroline, I had a number of questions written down, and this is why you're so good at this and why we're so lucky to have you on this podcast. But you answered most of them, other than the one question I wanted to ask regarding Grace Clinton is, who fills this hole that she's going to leave in midfield this coming season? Is that someone that we still don't really know, because it could be an incoming transfer. And of course there is a lot more time before the WSL season gets going. So there's a lot more time to get something like that done. Or is it someone in-house? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. In terms of if it's going to be someone from outside the club, I honestly have no idea, because we never get transfer rumors for the women's team. We're just in the dark, honestly.
And I want to be really clear. We would talk about them if there were any, but there just aren't any too. That's the biggest problem.
Right. So, if someone new is coming in, it's a mystery to me. But I think in terms of in-house possibilities, there's the potential for Drew Spence to play higher up the pitch than she has been, which, I think having her in that kind of deeper role really worked last season. But she's definitely capable of bringing that creativity. The other question mark would be Wang Shuang, who we haven't really gotten to see a lot of, just because she had a little bit of an injury coming into the team, and it took her a while to ramp up, I feel like. She's a versatile player. She can play that number 10, she can play on the wing, but I do feel like she does a lot of the same things that Grace Clinton can do. Obviously she's an older player, so it could be a matter of can to be the starter week in and week out. I don't know. But I definitely think she's an option.
I'll be really interested to see how it all works out in that midfield. And again, there's more time, because the WSL season doesn't kick off until September. It's a little ways away still, but boy, I would like to start getting some more signings in on that side of things as well, because that would be really, really nice. Scott, did you have something else to tip in on Grace Clinton?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as far as Grace goes, I'm super sad to see her go, and I hope she gets a chance to make an impact next year wherever she is. Right, she deserves it. Assuming it's going to be with her parent club and United, but we'll see. But as far as the conversation around the 10 goes, I don't disagree with either name Caroline mentioned. I think I would just add that it's a wonderful opportunity for the club to do what I've been begging for the last couple of months, and really make a statement signing at that position. It's an important position, obviously, for football in general, and especially the current game, but I think Robert's system too. really requires someone who's effective in that position. The Women's Super League is gaining popularity by the minute, right? We all know that. And I think Spurs are a team that are right on the cusp, as we all know too. I also think, because it's only a 12-team league, everything condenses a little bit. And so if somebody who's very talented is looking to make an impact in England, it's going to be hard to do that at a place like City. It's going to be hard to do that at a place like Chelsea, United, the big names. But there's an opportunity at Spurs and a hole there. So I'd really like to see the club, again, go after a big investment and just shop around to see who might be interested in coming to England in that position, because there's going to be people who are out there. We should just go sign Jaden Shaw. Easy, right? Just get it done. But no, Caroline, as a away fan, it's like, please do not say that. But no, all jokes aside, I really think there's an opportunity for us to go, again, make a statement signing and invest in that position. And I hope that something's happening behind the scenes, because like you all said, we'll never know with the women's team.
The point you make about the ability to come in and make an impact at a team like Spurs, how could that be more evident than what Beth in England has done the last handful of seasons? Yeah. Like, that's the perfect example of that. So if you have an opportunity to do it in a different position in the midfield like that, I think that's a really, really good point. So that's we'll see what comes about with Spurs Women, but still kind of just going through the motions of preseason and getting ramped up for a season on that end of things. I want to get to 5 words or less, because I've got a lot of names for us to play. And Scott and I played this game a little bit last week with some transfer names, some, rumors out there. We're going to play the game this week with players already at Spurs. And this, I think, will be fun. It'll spark some conversation and maybe even a little bit of debate, but we're going to go 5 words or less to start with the goalkeeper, the Italian. Guglielmo Vicario is our first name for 5 words or less. Let's start with Todd for this. Give me 5 words or less, your thoughts on Guglielmo Vicario as we head into the 2024-2025 season.
Best keeper in the league.
Interesting. Okay. Who wants to fire off another one? Let's just get these all out, and then we'll have a conversation about it. Scott, you got 5 words for me? Caroline, there you go.
Yeah, I'll do a sentence too. I trust him to deliver.
Trust him to deliver. Okay. Scott, what are your 5 words for Guglielmo Vicario?
Italian keepers are superior.
Wow. I should have expected. I don't expect anything less but that I should have expected. My 5 words on Vicario.
Can't argue.
Okay. My 5 words would be want to see next step. I'm ready for a jump. Not that I don't think he's good, but I think he can be better. I do think there's room for growth, and I want to see that from Vicario. So
I think and that's and I think that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that I think under Ange and with an improved back line, I think he will have the ability to take that next step to become the best keeper in the league, which he was for stretches in the season.
Well, and I think to allude to that stretch where he wasn't, there was just an article that came out today in The Athletic where he talked about he's very focused on, addressing the issues of like players crowding him in the box, not getting the calls necessarily from referees. So I think he's on top of it. And I think we're going to see some new strategies from him this season. So yeah, like I said, I'm feeling confident.
I think we all know that I was probably the most critical of Guglielmo Vicario last year, and that's fine. I wasn't down on him in a sense that I don't think he's a great keeper. I was down on him in a sense that I thought he needed to do a little bit more in those scenarios where he was getting crowded. And honestly, I credit him for having to play with basically for a big stretch of the season in the middle of the year last year with a different back 4 in front of him basically every week because of injuries, suspensions, etc. And it can't be easy for a goalkeeper to be thrown into that position, especially in your first season in a new club. So I'm all in favor of, what he's doing and what he's already done, but definitely think that there is room for improvement. And I'm kind of harsh on goalkeepers in general. That's just my kind of mindset. So that's where I am. I have a feeling we're going to be really harsh on this next name, but what are 5 words for Rodrigo Bentancur? That is the next name I have on the list. Let's start with Scott. Scott, do you have 5 words for Rodrigo Bentancur?
That's 6 words. Oh, it's tough. Maybe not required any longer.
Maybe not required any longer. Interesting. Okay. All right. Who's next? Caroline, do you have somebody just spout them out? Anyone? Do I need to step in?
Amends needs to be made.
Amends needs to be made. Amends needs
That's
to
true.
be made. That's 5. That's 5. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I would just add he has to keep up.
He has to keep up. Okay. Yeah, my 5 words were just going to be lots to prove. And I know that's not 5, but it's 5 words or less. That's the game. He has lots to prove, and not just on the pitch, as we know, with the offseason that he's had. There's a lot of I think we're all kind of on the same page here, and I don't want to belabor the point, but work needs to be done in the Rodrigo Bentancur camp to earn himself back into kind of the good graces. And honestly, if I had to go even further with it, the health part of it with Rodrigo Bentancur is the part that scared me before this summer, because I don't think like unfortunately, I thought there was going to be. Well, maybe that is a little bit part of it, Todd, but like I think there was part of what we saw out of his game after he came back from the multitude of injuries that I was like, ooh, is this going to be the same guy ever again? And that's kind of what I would question as well. So there's on the pitch stuff, there's off the pitch stuff, but I definitely think that Rodrigo Bentancur, we're all kind of on the same page there. Stuff to prove for him in the 2024-25 season. Maybe I strung these names together in a order that is fitting because I can transition to the striker, the Brazilian, Richarlison. What are the 5 words or less on Richarlison? Caroline, let's start with you. Do you have 5 words or less on Richarlison?
I want him to succeed.
Okay, that's fair. TC,
yeah, valuable piece in the squad.
Valuable piece in the squad. I would say still have questions would be where I'm at. Still have questions surrounding Richarlison after one full season in the books at Spurs. Scott, do you have
still
5
have
words
questions surrounding Richarlison? There you go.
Okay, for sure.
The only thing I would add that you guys haven't is his celebration is nasty.
You know what? I'm glad you brought something different to the table because that is true. The pigeon is pretty nasty.
I love the pigeon dance.
No, and I mean nasty in a very positive way.
Oh, okay.
I know you do. Yeah, I was agreeing. Agreeing with you.
Okay.
It is very nasty. It will be interesting, like just to kind of add on to this, it will be interesting if the club does bring in someone like Solanke, who we were talking about earlier in the pod, how that timeshare is managed, if Son is in the mix through more centrally, if Kulusevski is in the mix more centrally. Like there's going to be a lot of different options in that front three if another true striker is brought in.
We're in 4 comps, so fantastic.
Agreed, 100%. And I'm not anti this at all. Like, but Richarlison, obviously the injuries took their toll last year. Like, having him play fewer minutes could keep him a little fresher, which I'm all for as well.
Or fuck Jeff Scott.
We left that segment a while ago. But I've
never left that segment. 20 fucking years of mediocrity. Anyway.
Also worth mentioning with Richarlison, and this is 5 words, 9 goals in 9 games.
Yeah, no, he had a great.
If you look at his goal return, it's really, really respectable.
100% it is. 100% it is.
A lucky break is what I mean.
Yeah. The next name on my list is one I'm going to start us off with this one because it is a name that I did not think we were going to utter on the podcast at all this season, but all of a sudden through preseason, he's been one of the topics of conversation, and that is Jed Spence. My 5 words or less on Jed Spence is open to a rebirth. I am fully on board with whatever's going on. And look, I am all for giving players second chances. we've kind of known that Jed Spence was, I don't want to say a problem, but there were some off-field issues, let's say, whether it was his work ethic, whether it was his training ethic. We heard a lot of that kind of stuff, but it seems, based on everything that we've heard during the preseason, that a lot of those things have changed. And I am completely on board for giving a player like this another opportunity. He's still very young. He can be in the squad. He can serve as a backup on the right. He can play a little bit on the left as well. And that's something that this team desperately needs right now, is depth in those positions out wide.
Perfect. And European rotational piece.
Oh, I love those 5 words. That is so good. Thank you, Todd. That's how the game is played right there. That's really, really well done. Who else has 5 words or less on Jed Spence?
I would just say good for him.
Yeah, I love it. I love the sentiment. That's perfect. That's perfect. That's kind of what we're looking for here. Scott, you got anything else to add on Jed Spence?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's fine. I think the other
already been said.
No, that's fine. The other part of this is the homegrown quota. We talked about it earlier. The homegrown quota, important piece to that to add to the Jed Spence conversation. So this was the reclamation of Jed Spence will continue throughout the preseason and hopefully into the season. Let's go to the next name. It's 5 words or less on Dejan Kulusevski. I have a feeling Todd's gonna. You've already brought up Kulusevski a number of times on the pod today. You've liked what you've seen from him, especially through the middle. What do you have 5 words or less on Kulusevski?
Decky is my false 9.
That is 5 words or less. I was like, wait a second, that's 6 words. No, I can't count. It's brilliant. Yes, he's your false 9. And I think that here's what I'm going to say about Kulusevski. My 5 words or less would be versatility is key to him, because that is what Ange is begging for out of some of his players. Not every player. Some players are going to play one role and they're going to do it damn well. Versatility
is his main attribute.
Is it his main attribute, or is it just a key to his game? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
No,
I think it's a really.
I honestly don't think that Decky does anything better than a lot of things.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. Anybody else want to chime in on Kulusevski?
I would say chameleon, versatility, our secret weapon.
Yeah, and mine are along these lines, and mine would be new position or move him. So I think that's kind of what we're discussing.
All right, so that's fucking harsh, but I see where you're at.
I don't think that he's the right wing profile for the Ange system, but I think he's a fantastic player. So figure out another way to utilize his skill set or move him on, and I think the former is definitely happening. So I'm excited. And he's a big.
No, I would agree.
So I like him a lot for that reason.
We could sum it up by saying Swedish Army knife, something like that. Yeah. Like we need him to have a bunch of different tools in the toolbox.
Well done, sir.
Let's go to the next name. Another midfielder, Yves Bissouma. 5 words or less on Yves Bissouma as he enters another full season at Spurs going into 2024-2025 season. Who has 5 words or less on Yves Bissouma?
Better than most people think.
Better than most people think. I would say bounce. Go ahead, Caroline. Wait, give it to me again. I missed it.
It's a question. I said, but good enough.
Good enough question, but good enough question mark. Okay.
For 4 competitions, I'm looking at going in for 4 competitions. 100%. We don't have better rotational pieces, and Yves Bissouma has been a proven starter in the Premier League for 4 years now.
I would agree. I think mine would be room for growth needs. Nope, that would have been 6 words. Room for growth must happen.
Encouraging in the preseason.
Well, I haven't watched any preseason, to be perfectly fair, so that's not what they weren't going to be my 5 words.
I think Todd is right, though. I do think he's looked better in the preseason than he did for most of last season. So
mine are Archie Gray's primary competition.
It's fair.
Is it? Yeah,
it's
I
very
guess.
fair.
I guess
Archie
that's
Gray is
true.
fucking good, and
yeah, he really is.
I would prefer him at the 6 over Ibasuma match day 1. From what I've seen.
Well, it depends on who the other people in the midfield are, I would say.
Yeah, that's a fair shout, and that's a whole nother conversation that we probably don't want to derail the pod with. But yeah, I'm all in on Archie Gray, so we'll see.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we're only halfway through this list, so let's barrel through the second half of it and go to a name that I know will cause a little bit of consternation, especially for TC. But my next name on the list is Timo Werner. 5 words or less on Timo Werner.
Keep firing that low cross.
I love it. Yes, let's go. Todd's really good at this game. I love it. Keep firing that low cross. My 5 words or less on Timo Werner would be happy to have back. He is exactly, I think, what this squad needs. Not what this team needs, but this squad needs a guy like him, especially as you mentioned, Todd, 4 competitions. There's going to be plenty of minutes to go around. He's going to be a necessary piece on this team, I think, as long as he can stay healthy.
Standard, brilliant Levy business decision.
How many 5 words or less answers do you want to give for each player? I love what you're doing, though.
Right now we're working with 2. But if I'm taking anybody's, let me know. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
Mine are super sub, great attitude.
Those are good. I think that fits perfectly.
Yeah, functions well in the system. So the same thing everyone's been saying.
Well done. No,
I think, wow, I'm surprised everyone's so positive about. I thought we were going to get a little bit of, especially from UTC. I thought you were going to be a little bit more, anti. But I like that you're not.
It's like this, and it really boils down to. I kind of had an epiphanous moment playing NCAA 25, as others have mentioned, and it's if you run the same play every single time. It can get a little boring, but if it gets you 6 or 7 yards or 10 or 12 yards every time you run it, you're going to keep running the play. And then I thought about Timo Werner as I watched his highlights from this preseason. And it's like, this guy does the exact same fucking thing every single time. Stutter, push to the byline, fire the low cross. And they can't catch up to it. So I'm looking at it going, well, if they can't stop it, and every time he does it, the probability of us scoring a goal is plus 80%, it's like, okay, just keep firing the low cross. If you keep doing that, you can hang out as long as you want to.
Well, and when your system has your fullbacks playing as central attacking midfield, there's really nothing else you can do as a winger. I mean, the system is designed for exactly what Timo Werner does pretty well.
Run fast, fire cross.
Yep. Exactly. And we talked about it all the time last season. Timo Werner to Brennan Johnson, or the opposite, is going to account for a fair amount of goals this season. I really do believe that.
Once again, my transition king. The next name on the list is indeed Brennan Johnson. So what do we have to say about Brennan Johnson that we haven't just said about Timo Werner?
Bang on starting right wing.
Young player of the year.
Ooh, that's a bold call. I like that. I like the bold call at a TC.
Yeah, I like that manifestation. I mean, I almost said about Timo super sub with Brennan, but I don't hate him being a starter either. So I guess let him cook.
Mine would be excited for his growth, because I think he is one that can really grow in this system and can really, I mean, I don't think that 12 goal, 6 assist season is maybe even 8 assist season is out of the question for Brennan Johnson. I think he's got real capability in this system and can really show it. And I hope he does. Another guy who I hope we get to see a little.
Hold on a gosh darn second. I just need to call out the fact that the man had 5 goals and 10 assists. The man had 5 goals and 10 assists and missed the broadside of a fucking barn with his shooting boot like 6 times. If that guy just stands there and let it hit him in the nether regions, the ball goes in like 3 or 4 different times. I'm just saying this man has 20 plus goals and assists in him in a Spurs shirt this year, and I'm calling it now.
I just said I hope he gets 12 and 8. Those equal 20.
20 plus.
And I'm
sir.
not even.
I'm just telling
and
you.
I'm not
You're
even
short,
talking.
my guy. You're short, my
I'm
guy.
not
You're
even talking all
he's gonna
comps.
get
I was talking about
less of a return in assists than he had last year for us, and I struggle with that.
I wasn't even
because we're going to have an actual center forward.
I wasn't even thinking about like all comps. I'm thinking like just in the league. Like I want those numbers in the league, and then on top of what he's going to come up with in the Europa League and the cups. Like,
oh no, I'm saying 20 plus in the league, Andrew. I'm saying 20 plus goals and assists in the league right now. Double-digit assists.
I love it. I'm all on board. But look, I also think that there's going to be a lot of minutes to go around, and he's not going to play every single minute. I wouldn't want that on him. I want him to be fresh and rested, and there's going to be a lot of different moving parts in this front 3/4 with some midfield action. So I'm just trying to spread the love out is all. We're rowing the same boat, my friend. We're rowing the same boat.
All right, I'm in.
Another name that I hope we get to see a little bit more of this year, because we did get to see, I don't think, quite enough of him last year, and that is Radu Dragusin, the center back who had a very, very good Euro campaign. Obviously, there are some center backs ahead of him on the list, so he's probably not a bang-on starter. But what do we have for 5 words on Dragusin?
Starts for a majority of clubs.
Passing is not good enough.
Hasn't reached his ceiling yet.
I think my 5 words would be back 3 possibilities there. Because I think there will be some instances where we see it, especially with the depth on this team that is starting to come. And I think that he can be a part of that. But I agree with everything everyone else said too, because I don't think the passing is there, Todd.
He's
also don't think
a liability in defensive isolation.
I think he's a decent enough one-on-one defender. I think the passing is really the biggest bugaboo that I have. But I agree with Caroline in that I don't think we've seen the best of him, and I think there is room for
very
growth.
Young.
So
he's
very young still, and I really enjoyed his Euros campaign. Like I did watch a decent amount of Romania, even if it was just highlights, and I enjoyed what I saw out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think before I get cooked in the comments, majority does mean over 50%, right? So he's not starting for any top 6 organizations when I say that, right? But he's very talented. The Ange system does require center backs to be absolute freaks athletically, right? It puts so much strain on the center backs. Just the dude is unhinged with the way that he plays a back line, right? So and Ange when I say that, right? So Dragusin definitely has a lot to work on to function well in the Ange system, but I think he's mega talented, and at 21 years old, lots more to come.
I want to eat at his brother's Euro shop.
Yes, definitely.
Fair enough. All right, let's go back into the midfield, and then we'll veer back to the back line as we finish up. But the next name on the list is young Oliver Skipp. Oliver Skipp, 5 words or less. I could easily go first on this if you guys want me to. Mine would be being homegrown is his value.
Time for him to go.
That was a lot harsher than I was, but fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say sell him to Crystal Palace.
That's good.
probably needs a move.
Do you guys realize how young Oliver how young Oliver Skip still is?
Was he 19?
24?
He's 23.
Yeah. We're just incredibly deep at the midfield, and he's not.
No, and it's cool. It's Crystal Palace time. Scotty's right. Like, listen, we know what this is, and we have a tendency to hang on to Harry Winks longer than we should. I mean, we recognize what this is, right? Like, this is the exact same thing that we've seen play out in all the Lewis Holtby time that I can possibly remember, right? Like, these are all the Scott Parkers that you need to move on long before this stuff happens.
Keep going,
like,
man.
I'm just telling you, brother, this shit has been going on for fucking decades. Get this man out of here before he clogs up all of our quotas.
All those names are such great.
Good too. Like, I want him to be successful, you know?
Yeah, he will be 24 in a little over a month, but I can't really disagree. I just don't think he's a fit for Ange's system. I think he's a good player who could do good things elsewhere. He's not going to do them at Spurs, unfortunately. I don't think. Let's stay in the midfield. 2 names to go here before we wrap this up. The next name on the list is an assistant captain. It is Mr. James Maddison. What are our 5 words or less on James Maddison?
Look out behind you.
Ooh.
Yes.
It's time to show up.
I'll just stay on theme and say Lucas Bergvall's biggest competition.
My 5 words were going to be health is still big factor, because I think
health just got exceptionally better because fuck Jeff Scott.
What do we know about the new guy, Todd? That's my question.
He's going to be better than Jeff Scott. That's my
his name's not Jeff Scott. That's what we know.
Okay.
No, it's just listen. He's going to have been schooled before 1987, so we actually have a chance of him knowing what the fuck to do when our 2024 athletes get injured.
Yeah, look, for me with James Maddison, he turns 28 in November. Like, that is not old by any stretch, but it certainly isn't young when you're talking about at this level of football. And I want him to stay healthy. And I think that the Bergvall part of this, and honestly, you could throw a number of different other names in there that could fit in the role in this deep midfield, including, and I will continue to say, including Dejan Kulusevski, because I think he can be a factor still in the midfield at times. I think that him not having to play every single minute of every single game is obviously the biggest factor of health for him. So that would be kind of where I'm at with Maddison.
I agree. It's not so much about, not having Justin Maddison to perform. It's more so just that I was so impressed with Bergvall just from preseason. Like, if we were doing 5 words for him, I would have said seamless addition. So it is what it is.
Definitely less than 5 words, and I love how succinct you get. Yeah, I love how succinct you make it. Last name on the list, and for those who are not watching on YouTube, Scott had to dip, so we're not going to hear his 5 words or less. But the last name, the other assistant captain, Christian Romero. Cuti Romero is our last name for this game. 5 words or less on Christian Romero.
Best defender in the league.
Best defender in the league. You got best goalkeeper in the league. We should never give up a goal, I guess, right?
I put a lot of that on Pedro Porro.
Fair. That's fair.
But Pedro was so much better last season.
He was 100%, but there's a big difference between improvement and proficiency.
That's fair. My words for Cuti would just be stay on the pitch. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's fine. I was like, wait,
that's great. That's perfect.
Over 5, so.
My 5 words or less for Cuti Romero will be leadership attributes start to shine, because I do think that he is And I'm not
He's next.
I'm not by any stretch kicking Heung-min Son to the curb. And you'll note that we did not have Heung-min Son on the list for 5 words or less because, and we talked about this in our pre-show meeting. I don't think anyone's going to have 5 words that are controversial about Heung-min Son. He's a club legend, so I didn't include him on the list. But what you just said, Todd, he's next. I think Cody Romero is the next big name leader on this team, and I think he's going to step in to the role whenever Heung-min Son is no longer in the role. And I think that that's something that I'm super excited about because I think that he's an important leader, but also, to your point, Todd, maybe one of the best defenders in the league. You said the best defender in the league. I'll just couch it with, he's one of the best defenders in the league, maybe in the world, and doesn't get talked about like that. But I think this is a season for him, if we're going to talk specifically about 24-25, where he can start to ascend to that level and really start to get recognized at it. And the leadership part of it, I think, is a big part of that.
Well, on the contrary, he does get talked about like that, just not like that in England. And we can talk about why on a different podcast. Because, I mean, realistically, Real Madrid have shown signs that they would like to bring him in. And that doesn't happen unless you're the best defender in the fucking world. Like Messi, the greatest player of all time, says he's the best defender in the world. He's won 4 major world trophies with his international team, including a World Cup, 2 Copa Americas, and a Finalissima. Like, what else would you use to define that? Now, the one thing that I do want to address, because I would be doing a disservice to the conversation if I didn't, is his potential to get tossed for being hot-headed. And what I would say is that happened one time last year. In the past, it has happened significantly more. But in the last season, that happened one time, and it was for a tackle that, though when you look at it slowed down in isolation, looks very iffy, 100%. If you watch it in the flow of the game, it didn't look overly aggressive, and we certainly saw worse tackles of the same variety be in the league go as yellow cards or not even a foul. It happened to some of the players on our own team. And so when you look at that, yes, it plays into the narrative of him being a potentially risky player. But if you actually look at the facts, and that being his major offense from last year, he played his ass off. And the discipline issues were way down. And he really embodied that leadership role. And he loves working for Sonny. Sonny is his guy. And he is exactly the type of physical presence and winning presence that we need out of our leaders and in our locker room. So I love Cody Romero so very much.
Yeah, my stay on the pitch was actually more in reference to fitness because I feel like every season he has had a pretty significant injury layoff. So I just want him to stay healthy this season and be there to be the co-captain consistently. But I agree with you. I do think he's underrated in England, and I think that's just the English football world kind of underrating defenders in general. They don't usually get the accolades. So
I also love that we're names like Terry or Stones.
I also love that we still reference that made up Lionel Messi quote about Christian Romero, and I hope we always do, and just speak it into existence as fact, because
100%
that is an incredible bit that we need to just continue for all time. I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Tottenham Depot before we just completely lose the plot and get out of hand. We've only got a couple of weeks though, guys. I mean, we're really getting down to it. We are in the coming weeks going to put out a podcast that's a sort of de facto season preview as the season is, like I said, right around the corner, and hopefully we can bring 5 words or less back for the women's team at some point as their season draws nearer. That would be really fun. Bring up some of those names. And I don't know, I think it's a fun little tack to start some conversation, and I love it. So thank you guys for participating. Be sure to check out our episodes on the YouTube page. I mentioned it earlier, but youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, and also leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and TikTok at Tottenham Depot. You can also reach out to us via email. Find that at the link in our bio. For Scott, he is at Scott G. Bird. Caroline is at CG Stefko. Todd is at TC_Kasho. You can follow me at Aesthetica. Till next week, this has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.